Depending on which note hits the rim, will tell you a lot in terms of, am I undershooting moving? So like if I'm moving to the outside and I hit the first note as a rim, that means I'm not starting close enough on to drum 1. If it's the second or third note, something like that, I can't demonstrate the mistake apparently, then it means you're not moving far enough over, or where you're starting is not close enough to the edge of the rim. So when doing this, you want to make sure that you're not starting here and then hitting the rim. The motion that I'm practicing is the speed of the transition, not the actual show tempo, how I would play it. So I'm just trying to work on the transition itself, not necessarily the stroke, but I want to make sure that I have a downstroke without any kind of a slice while playing it. And so I'm trying to basically teleport from one to the next so I can get a perfect downstroke, as opposed to going like this and getting it so that it's just a slice after slice, and that's going to change the quality of the sound when you're playing on the drum. It'll choke off the sound a little bit, and you might end up hitting more rim. Oh, really? Really? You're gonna have a hair loss and balding for somebody who's, got this on their head? I'm incognito, and YouTube knows me. YouTube knows me. I see how it is. Okay. You know what, YouTube? I like myself the way I am, so I don't need your hair loss product. Again, I'm trying to go for that quick motion. If I were actually playing this for like show music or something like that, then I would be more than happy to just do a nice, leisurely, relaxed pace. But again, you're trying to focus not just on the velocity for the up and down, but your movement from one position to the next. Where this actually comes from is from 4-mallet technique with the Stevens grip. When you strike a note, your goal is to move over to the next note or interval as quickly as you possibly can. So you'll strike and immediately move over so that we can do a perfect downstroke, as opposed to like a slicing stroke or like a Julie Spencer technique where you like flick your wrist like upside down or something. So with tenors, while doing this, I'm trying to move as quickly as I can to the next position so I can go straight down, which gives me the best sound quality, as opposed to moving over at an angle and slicing, which will cause the sound quality to not be as good. I need to give my arms a little break. I should have done that to warm up. My arms are so warm right now. I really need to get one of those like temperature things where you can like aim it at something and tell you how hot it is, and like do like before my hands are warm, now after they're warm. So while I was playing through that, doing the different accent tap stuff, the left hand was hitting more of the stick, but the right hand had more of a choked off accent. So it was actually squeezing more. So even though it may have like to a novice person sounded a little bit better because they're like, hey, there's less stick clicks going on. Okay, but the sound quality was significantly worse. So things to listen for when you're doing this. It's not just the obvious like, hey, did you hit the rim or did you hit your stick? It's also like, hey, how does it actually sound? Are your sticks vibrating? Are things nice and relaxed or not? I have 1.33 subs. One day I'll get the 2 whole subs. One of the things that I was noticing when I was doing the accents, all of them as crossovers, was that the interior notes on this were kind of like going like this. So I would move my right hand over, and this one would slide over, and then when I move my left hand over, the right hand would slide over as well. And so it would kind of create some inconsistencies in the taps because it was just constantly doing this kind of motion. But what I want to do instead is just make it so that when I hit the accent, this hand does not move to get out of the way. The accent is the one that's doing the work. And so the interior notes are staying on the 2 different zones, one for the right bead, one for the left bead, and not kind of like switching over to each other's. Added in some stick clicks in there just to go into hard mode, extra challenge. Trying to make sure the accents are the same. There's a tendency for the crossover hand to be too light. Whoops, extra diddle. So I'm focusing on making it not too light like that. I want it consistent. So this variation is called stick control skeleton. So this one might sound weird. It's like, oh, is this the Halloween version? No, it's not the Halloween version, although that would be interesting. This one is actually the same thing, except you don't hear all of the notes. It's not solid 16th notes. All you hear are the hand-to-hand transitions, and you have to fill them in. So it looks like a timing exercise, but it's not. Same thing that I was just playing, normal stick control. So I just intentionally played that faster than I'm comfortable with. And so what that told me while doing that is that my left hand, when I start to get faster, it was having a tendency to hit this stick because it was moving too far over here rather than up and out of the way. And so that was affecting my tap because this was then making this too low. I was also noticing when I was doing this that my taps were inconsistent and a little bit slurred out when I did the paradiddles right here. Again, likely because the left hand wasn't moving enough over this way to get out of the way of this particular stick, etc. Okay, so those are some of the things that I noticed when playing it fast, and now that gives me data for what I can do to improve my playing, and by slowing it back down again and working on that. While I was doing this, I was noticing that my right hand kind of started to turn at an angle and was like switching over almost to French grip. Not completely, but enough that it was noticeable. So I was trying to correct for that. But then the other thing that I was noticing is that I was starting too close to the edge and ending up too far away from here. So I was actually using more motion than I needed. What I needed to do was start a little bit further out and then close this gap just a little bit. So that's what I was like messing with on the fly, and you'll notice that it causes more rim clicks, and that's okay. All crossovers. Hard. Better than I thought it would go, to be honest.